it's a tough one, because if you really look at 2022 in the right manner, I think as what we are seeing right now, there were highs, but at the same time there were some very dismal lows. And a lot of people can say we went into the Commonwealth final and we did all of that, but I still feel that final was kind of a pretty bad moment for Indian hockey, especially when you lose by 7 goals to a team like Australia. You can always say Australia is the number 1 side in the world, but then you have to also say that you also the number 4 and the number 5th side in the world as per the FIH rankings. And at the same time, you're bronze medalists. You have no right to lose by that much a margin. So the big point or the big day was Tokyo. Definitely, you cannot take that away. It came after so many years, decades of waiting for a particular medal, waiting to get onto the podium. So I think that should be your shining part, the shining glory. The rest of it, a lot could have been done, but yeah, I think those are parts and parcels of modern sport, modern hockey, because you never know what's going to happen tomorrow, and you play for the big ones. So when you say that you play for the big ones, in that way, I think the Commonwealth Games final was a disappointment. I think it was more of a, you've come that far and then you expect a podium, but that podium doesn't happen. And the last time that you probably thought you might be going up the podium was 1980 Moscow, and after that there has been this massive gap. I think it was more of an outpouring that happened in a way that, you've reached far, you've beaten Australia to go into a semi-final, and then when you lose a semi-final, which probably was also a very, very an extremely close game, I think tears were bound to flow. And for the girls, they had put in a lot of effort, in terms of fitness. You actually see the teams 5 years back, 6 years back, 7 years back, even 4 years back. You look at the side that went to Rio and you look at the side that went to Tokyo. There was a massive amount of change in regards to fitness, in regards to skill. Talent was always there. But all of these factors that make up modern sport, modern hockey, I think all of those factors came in there, and the girls probably felt that, it was just round the corner and they just couldn't catch it. I think the emotion was a part of sport, is a part of sport, and it was very natural that the Indian women's team, you could see those tears out there. If you just see what happened in the last 7 to 8 years, and when you look at a graph, when you look at the way they went to the quarterfinals in Rio under Altmans at that point of time, when you even go back a couple of years and you see that they were in the 2018 Champions Trophy final, a final that India should have easily won. And this is not me saying it, this is the Australian coach who's at the moment the present coach, Colin Batch, saying Australia were lucky to win that final against India in the Champions Trophy. So when you see that trajectory, when you see that graph, I think Tokyo was the culmination of a team that was coming into its own. So in that way, the Tokyo bronze medal, and I still believe in a way that bronze medal could have easily been a silver or a gold because of a couple of errors which I think were selection errors that were made in the team. But putting that on the side, I feel that whatever had happened in the last 6, 7, 8 years, and if you can call that a rising graph, you can call that an upward curve, the podium finish in Tokyo was the perfect culmination of a massive amount of effort, or of a lot of effort that went from Hockey India, the Hockey India League, the coaches, the turnaround of the coaches, which we all criticized. I think all of that ended well with a bronze medal. Well, if you just look at the third quarter, if you call that the Tokyo Olympics, I think that was the graph that really went well. That was the graph where even after losing to Australia by 7 goals in the pool, I think the team still had enough guts, enough determination, enough hunger, enough, in the stomach to actually say that, this is one-off and let us now do something about this team and make it to the final or make it to the semi-final. I think that's what they did. I think that shows a lot of in-depth also on the bench. It shows a lot of coaching expertise that went in, but largely players. You look at Srijesh, you look at the full backs, right from Rupinder Pal Singh, look at Harmanpreet, look at the midfield from Manpreet, look at the forward line with Dilpreet and everybody out there. I think that quarter was what defined Indian hockey. The first, second, and the last quarter. I'm not going to say that forget them, because all the 4 quarters make a match. But I think we played the best in the third quarter when we played at Tokyo. It's easy to criticize Narendra Batra. I think it's always easy to criticize someone, but at the same time, I mean, there are grey areas in Narendra Batra's career, which anybody and everybody knows, and it's pointless getting into all of that. Let's look at the positives of that man before he was told to leave Hockey India. And it is because of him. Let me put this very, very aptly and very clearly. If the bronze medal came in Tokyo, it was because of Batra. It was only because of Batra, because he wanted the foreign coaches, he changed teams, he changed coaches whenever he wanted to, even though they turned out to be pretty decent changes. Also, at the same time, you also have to understand the Hockey India League was started by him. If it wasn't started, I don't think these players would have reached this particular level, because once you start playing with some of the best in the world, you actually think that you are right up there. And most of the players actually thought like that okay, we are not second or third best, we are along with them, even if we are not ahead of them. That was one part. Bringing in Dilip Tirkey, I think it's only the next couple of years that will actually show how much of Dilip's expertise as a player can come in as a president. I do believe that he is a good man. I do believe that he has the best for hockey in his heart, in his mind, and whatever he does will be for the players and for the sport. But will he get that maneuvering space that a president always requires? I don't know yet, and it's too early because he's just been elected. You have to give the man 6 months, 8 months in the job, and there's a World Cup around the corner that he also has to collate and make it a success. I think you still need time for Dilip to settle into this space. Understand he comes from a background where none of these people have ever become coaches or even become administrators. Dilip needs that space. Dilip needs that time actually to be able to understand even himself as an administrator. And I think if we give him the 6-8 months, they will. Let's hope that the results are positive. Let's hope that he brings in his expertise as a top player, as a player, not only as one of the best fullbacks in the world, but also as a man who captained India at the Olympics. So I think Paris should be the one that Dilip should target. I think, when you look at the team also, I think there is a little bit of transition that you can see in preparation for 2024. It's a little weird to call it a preparation for 2024 because of a World Cup just around the corner. But the captaincy may have taken a lot of people by surprise, or probably a block of people by surprise. I wasn't surprised by it because simple fact, I don't see Manpreet at the 2024 Paris Olympics. And I'm not saying that because that his graph has suddenly come down. I think you still have to look for younger legs. But at the same time, Harman has been performing both as a goal scorer, both as a fullback, sweeper, comes up, plays very hard hockey. You can see him on the flanks, which is also not only surprising, but for a man of his caliber, to come up, go back again, requires a lot of effort out there, in terms of fitness and you've really got to be mentally really strong out there. So I think it's probably a reward for a guy who's been performing right at the highest level to be made captain. But at the same time, it's a 50-50 for Manpreet. He may make it to Paris and he may not make it to Paris. I think if Hockey India wants him to go to Paris, I think this probably is taking the stress off him, taking all of that mental troubles that come by when you're becoming a skipper. Though of course, hockey is not like cricket where the captain has everything to do on the field. There's a coach who does most of the job, but the stress is a part of the captain's job. So I think this whole transition is looking at Paris 2024, and not certainly that Manpreet is going to be out of the team. He may and he may not be, but I still give him that maybe Paris could be his last tournament. Yeah, but Odisha is not the first state to gear up for a World Cup, or rather gear up for hockey. Punjab did it much back, but because of some issues with Hockey India, they never really could utilize those 5-6 lovely, fabulous stadiums that were built in Punjab. But now that's history. That's something which is, you got to turn over the pages to look at that. If you purely look at Orissa, you look at the region of Sundargarh, you look at Rourkela. Now this is, I wouldn't say backward, but these are all mining areas. That's where the Rourkela steel plant is. That's where probably in 1981 the first Jaipal Singh Memorial Hockey Tournament was played. That's why the stadium has been called Birsa Munda Hockey Stadium, because it's a tribute to Birsa Munda. All of that is also a tribute to all these youngsters, all these tribal hockey players that have come out of the region in thousands. Most having made it to the Indian hockey team, Dilip Tirki being one of the biggest among them. You have Lazarus Barla, you have Ignace, you have so many of them who made it to the Indian national team. I think in a way it's also a give back to that particular district, to entire Sundargarh, which also encompasses Pamposh, where the sports hostel has been built, and also now Rourkela, where you have a 21,000-seater stadium. My only thing is that I just hope that even in the future, the stadiums are utilized, the national championships are held there. Maybe Rourkela just might have a very a big domestic hockey tournament. Maybe Jaipal Singh will again be revived and made into a really big one. So looking at all of that, this is great for the state, this is great for Adivasi players, this is great for tribal hockey, and more can follow from here. I'll just pick two. One is Tokyo, which was a huge high coming, after 1980. We had never won. We had never won a medal after that, and the country was just waiting, the fans were waiting when we'll get a medal, and we finally clinched it in Tokyo. So that's one part. The other part is the Commonwealth final. It's very difficult to get that final out of your head. I don't know about the team, how tough it must be for them, but for a lot of people who saw that final that day, it was a low. It was a low not because we lost. I mean, you can still lose 3-1, 3-0, 3-2, 2-1, and you can still call it, oh, we played a close game. The reason why it was a low was simply because there was nothing that the Indian team was doing at that moment of time. And one can't recall such a blank happening from a team as strong as the Indian team. So in that way, that was a huge low. Tokyo was a massive high.